All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak, and the State of the Nation continues right now. My guests are still with me, Honorable Jared Okello, Member of Parliament for Nyando, Honorable Joe Nyutu, Senator for Murang'a, and Honorable Dan Manzo, Senator for Makueni. We are discussing whether the members of Parliament acted dishonorably by ousting some of the committee chairs in the National Assembly. And before we took the break, Jared, there was a concern from Honorable Manzo that the problem here is that MPs simply steal their CDF. That's the reason why they can't achieve what was achieved in Ndindi Nyoro's Kiharu constituency.
I've heard my friend Honorable Manzo speak. Fortunately, he used to be a member of Parliament, so he understands the workings of our officers. We know the setup, we know the terrain, we understand the topography of our nation as regards usage of public funds. If Honorable Manzo did exactly what he says he actually did, then Makueni would be another utopia on earth. We would not be going to Kiharu to benchmark. We would be going to his Makueni. But no one has ever proposed going to Makueni, meaning there is nothing to write home about. When senators move from National Assembly to the Senate, then they start seeing the ills, perpetuated in the National Assembly, which is okay because sibling rivalry will always fester everywhere. But allow me to put into context and disabuse certain misleading assertions that I've heard here from my two colleagues. Firstly, we serve in our committees at the pleasure of, number one, your political outfit or your political party. Number two, we serve at the pleasure of our leaders. The whips must propose you into a committee. So you don't impose yourself. And most importantly, you are elected by the members of your committee. That is why everybody has the latitude to pick nomination papers to face into that election. In fact, yesterday, pact, which is now led by Tindi Mwali, had a challenger. Honorable Tienda Molo was a candidate, and because that is his democratic right. So if members have voted a different way, I don't think anyone has, the lockers to start castigating membership of a committee.
But how come we never had these problems before the broad-based arrangement? Nobody spoke about Ndindi Nyoro's skewed allocation to his constituency. In fact, it was all praises.
Yeah, I'm coming there. Honorable Mboko Malemba, the Muhaya Member of Parliament, rose on a point of order, asking how public participation fund was used. Because in law, there has been an allocation of a particular amount of money to do public participation on budgetary items, and it was meant to move across the 47 counties in 4 years, so that at the end of 4 years, all the 47 counties shall have been visited by a committee that conducts public participation on budget-making process. So he was asking why Emuhaya has not been put into this particular fray. And we call it joyriding. That is the term we use in Parliament. So when somebody asks a question and you have a rejoinder, then you become a joyrider. So the leadership, both the majority and minority, had a rejoinder. It was not a motion, and we cannot say that we are faulting the majority leader and the minority leader for joyriding on a question that was presented by a Muhaya Member of Parliament. If it was a discussion about the conduct of a member, then yes, a motion ought to have been filed. And a motion is not just restricted to the leadership. It is the leadership together with members of Parliament. But that the Speaker never gave us an opportunity because nobody filed anything against Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. So we cannot say, therefore, that Ndindi was castigated and discussed without a substantive motion. It is also important to note, Honorable Trevor, because you are soon going to be, that Mary Emase, who is a member of Parliament representing Teso South, was also vice chair of the budget committee, and she was axed. Honorable Lesuda, for example, again, was a member of PIC for education and governance, was also axed. Honorable Undo, the MP for Funyula, was also axed. And they don't come from Mount Kenya. So this idea of whipping up emotions of Mount Kenya people that you are the target, yet Emase, Oundo, and Lesuda don't come from Mount Kenya, and they faced the wrath.
They are independent
they face the wrath of. So this, and Mwenje is also, Honorable Mwenje, who is also our deputy minority whip, is still retained in his seat. Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah is still our leader in the House. So, and Honorable Gikaria, for God's sake, is coming back as the chair of Energy Committee. So this idea of saying, we've been sidelined as Mount Kenya and this is a target against Mount Kenya. Where is Gikaria coming from? Where is Mwenje coming from? Where is Ichung'wah coming from? All these are Mount Kenya people. If somebody has faltered in his execution of mandate, you can't be retained just because you are from Mount Kenya. You have to face the wrath, because again, at the end of the day, we are accountable to the people who put us into those offices, and these are the people of Kenya. Ndindi Nyoro may have used his CDF well, may have. But I'm trying to wrap my head around how I can be so prudent in management of my CDF that in all my schools I have cabros, and you know how much cabros are. By the way, we changed the formula of allocating NGCDF, that 75% is shared uniformly. Then 25% is based on the number of wards that you have in your constituency. So Nyando, for example, gets only 140 million. I get 15,000 applicants for bursary. And you come to Nyando, you see the face of poverty with all the hardships that we have, the perennial flooding and perennial drought. It is usually to the extremes. So you cannot say that you are going to, delegate or segregate on issues of wealth, assume that this family does not need CDF, this one does. It is misleading. So you have to just consider people uniformly. And if you're going to leave out certain people because you think that they are endowed, in a few months they will be out of school. And that is the reality. So if I were to consider, like Ndindi Nyoro does, I see from his citizen bulletins when he has these adverts on what he has done in his constituency, and people only pay 1,000 shillings. That therefore means that he's paying 10,000 on behalf of these other students, 10,000 shillings. Now Nyando gets 140 million. I get 15,000 applicants. If I were to follow Ndindi Nyoro's route of allocating 10 million, then I have to look for another 10 million from my own coffers to give to those students to top it up to 150 million. Remember, this is the same money that goes into administration, which is 10%. Administration taking care of all the utilities and all the bills and salaries of those who serve in those offices. Mm-hmm. There is the element also of, the security, where you have to build chief's offices and their deputies. You have to cater for the police stations and police posts in your constituency. Yeah. So it can never be enough.
So you're saying what Ndindi Nyoro did was simply impossible in another constituency?
Unless he was topping up using his own funds. Yeah. But, at a mundane level, and I've just explained, in my situation, for example, and the biggest part of my budget actually goes to bursary, because I want to keep children in school. Okay. We also build those classrooms. We are actually peeling off the old roofs and replacing with the new. We are innovating. We are doing fencing of our schools. So if I have to juxtapose what I do alongside what Ndindi has done, then I don't want to rule out the fact that he could be topping up from his coffers. Because again, I read somewhere that is one of the biggest shareholders of Kenya Power. So that is not a small person. So getting another maybe 300 million from his own account to top up the CDF is possible.
Okay.
I do not have that. So I have to limit myself along the confines of what I get, which is only 140 million.
Okay, let me hear what Joe has to say, because Joe was actually a committee chair in the education and the Senate.
Thank you, Trevor. And I want to go with my colleague, Senator Manzo's argument and reasoning that the Honorable Dende Nyoro has run his CDF very well. And I've had occasion on his invitation to attend some of these functions that he does in Kiharu. And what Dende Nyoro has been doing is that he has also been able to get very many friends. Yeah. I know, for example, and I've seen those that support him come with him. I have seen representatives from Food for Education, for example. So that just to debunk what Honorable Okello is saying, it is not basically paying 10,000 per student. It is, for example, provision of foodstuffs in schools to reduce the cost. It is something that Honorable Dende has sat down with the school principals. And remember, it's just the day schools. You know, when Honorable Okello talks about 9,000 applicants for bursary, then that includes even, of course, those that are in boarding school. Yeah. So this particular arrangement affects only, day schools. Yeah. And the numbers are not as high. So it's about reducing the costs, a provision of foodstuffs in schools, friends, and, that kind of arrangement. And that is why Dende Nyoro has been able to excel in Kiharu. Yeah. It is not that he has misallocated monies meant for other places to his constituency. When I hear from my friend Jared when he says that the discussion of Dende Nyoro in the National Assembly just happened after a point of order from the Honorable Mboko Milemba. Yeah. I mean, that is how things are choreographed. Mboko Milemba, you will, stand and put across this point of order. Junet, you will also, after that, you will stand and use that opportunity to tear the character of Dende Nyoro in the house. Yeah. Kimani Ichung'wah, you will come in and make sure that whatever Junet Mohammed will not have done, that you do it very conclusively. I, as the Speaker, will allow you, because the Speaker had the ability and the authority to stop them and tell them, hello, we are now going against our standing orders, because now you have started discussing the conduct of a person without a substantive motion. Yeah. So it was something choreographed. So there is nothing like it is. They just rode on the point of order that was raised by Mboko Milemba. And to respond, Honorable Jared has said that we are just, crying wolf as people from Mount Kenya. If you remember in my submission, I was saying, and because this thing is recorded, I was saying at least in the Senate. And I want Jared, because I know he's also conversant with the happenings in the Senate, to tell me any chair in the Senate that was ousted who does not come from Mount Kenya, and if he doesn't come from Mount Kenya, because I know Honorable Seki, the senator for Kajiado, was also ousted, is because he voted no to the motion to impeach Rigathi Gachagua. The names that he's fronting, he's talking about in the National Assembly, he's saying Gekaria retained his position. Good. Mwenja retained his position. Well, Ichung'wah was not removed. You should have mentioned others, not Ichung'wah. Of course, how do you say that Ichung'wah could have been removed? He's the one removing people, of course, under instructions from somewhere. So under instructions. Let me finish. So the Akina Lesula Leisudend and Honorable Manzo mentioned here is because they are independent-minded. Let Jared Okello tell me any person that survived the purge in Mount Kenya that voted yes. Everybody that voted yes to the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua was ousted. And I have examples of those that fell by the wayside because of voting yes. because of voting no. I mean, Wanjiku Moher, I mean, Honorable Gakuya, Honorable Gathoni wa Mushomba, and Dende, because Dende Nyoro's cardinal sin, and that is why he had to lose his seat, was abstaining from voting yes to the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. So when we sit here, let us be honest with ourselves. Yeah. Tell me, for example, in the Senate, and Senator Manzo is here, tell me any chair from the Rift Valley that was removed from the Senate. Honorable, Senator Mandago, chair for health, was retained. Honorable Chesang, Senator for Trans Nzoia, Chair ICT, was retained. Honorable Sigei, Senator for Bomet, Chair Jaila, was retained. Honorable Murgo, Senator for West Pokot, Chair Labour, was retained. And tell me which senator from the mountain who was a chair was retained. And when we talk about this, we are told we are tribalists. Which tribalist? Who is the greatest tribalist in this country, if not William Ruto, who will carefully make things appear nobody from his community is asked. Even in the National Assembly, let Okello tell me anybody from President Ruto's community that was asked. Let him mention one.
Okay.
And because I'm mentioning names of people from Mount Kenya that were asked. Remember, basically UDA, and I don't think, I'm not saying this to mean that we should have taken all the chairs, but remember UDA and UDA, the major following and support was from Rift Valley and Mount Kenya. So let us compare the two. Tell us which chair from Rift Valley in both houses has been removed.
Okay.
Because I'm mentioning names of chairs from Mount Kenya that have been removed.
Right.
And tell me whom the tribalist is.
Okay.
The chief tribalist is.
Yes,
right.
I just want to say that, of course, when it comes to use of CDF, there is cumulative effect. You see, like now, Ndindi Nyoro is also serving a second term. So when members who perform well are re-elected, the structures continue to be strengthened.
Yeah.
And there are some constituencies have 3 wards. In Makueni constituency, I had initially 9 wards, and I had to go to court to remove 2, to remain with the 7. And in fact, Makueni constituency stretches from the border with Kajiado to the border with Kitui County. And a distance of almost like 200 kilometers square. And one of my wards, together with their needs, are equivalent to some constituencies in Kenya. 1 ward in Makueni constituency. And therefore, I want to tell Jared, by the way, a lot of people go to benchmark in Makueni County and Makueni constituency. Very many. In fact, even Honorable Musimba did very well when he was in Kibwezi West. Yeah. There was serious change, which had never been seen over the years. It's all that somebody may not have sung home about it. He was working similarly like Ndindi Nyoro. I want to tell you, if you moved Ndindi Nyoro to Kikuyu constituency and took Ichungwa to Murang'a, you are going to have same performance, same money. Because management of CDF funds, I want to say that a lot of times MPs don't oversight it. You leave it to people, and they mismanage it for you while you are sitting in Nairobi or you are busy in the assembly.
Now that you're still on the floor, I want us to shift to this conversation and to head into a different topic here. Still on the same. Yes. MPs are giving themselves 7 billion more as you slash the health budget. Legislators have now increased their spending limit by a staggering 7 billion for the financial year starting July 1st, even as the health ministry's budget was cut by 73.4 billion shillings. This is according to the budget policy statement. Is this fair?
No, it is not. First of all, health is devolved. And the national government has refused to support the devolution. Most of these monies should be allocated through the national government. You saw that through the devolved units, through the Senate. You saw the markets, which are supposed to be done by counties, be done by members of parliament, especially those who are favorable to government. It was a political tool. All that money should have been moved to devolution. All money is aligned to devolution, agriculture, health, should all get devolved. So that sort of budget is unfair, and we really need to follow the law. Unfortunately, because of the tyranny of numbers, votes, you see the majority of their way, while the minority have their say. You know, we should have fair allocation in budgets, and devolution must get its share. What this government is doing is to kill devolution softly.
Yeah. But why does Parliament need an extra 7 billion shillings? Because according to the budget highlight for 2025-2026, they're increasing their budget from 42 billion to 49.4 billion.
Why they reduce the budget of devolved units, and that's unfair. It should be checked again. And the member of parliament is not part of executive. That has been the misnomer. We should allow the executive to do its job, and members of parliament do their job, which is oversight and legislative. Okay. But unfortunately, members of parliament are implementing the executive agenda for their own benefit. And that's why we got a new constitution. That could happen in the old constitution. Okay. You will become a minister of finance, and you have an advantage over the other members of parliament. Okay. And you will allocate yourself even more resources. And those days, even the resources used to be allocated by the president himself. What he dictates to Treasury is what happens. And that's why we are still going to have a problem with the new finance bill, unless it is fair and favorable to Kenyans.
Okay. Jared, why would Parliament allocate themselves 7 billion shillings extra and cut the budget for health at a time when there's a US aid freeze?
Just in under 1 minute before I get there, I have had my brother, Honorable Nyotu, and supported by my brother, Honorable Kalonzo, how the newly...
Manzo. Not Kalonzo.
Don't worry, that's a blessing. One day I'll get there.
Oh, yeah, he's called Manzo. Yeah, well, he will be there, definitely, I can see. So, you know, how, you know, the recomposition of the budget of the committees took a tribalistic angle and patterned along those who supported the former Deputy President Gachagua. Now, I would want to say this on the same. Honorable Gachagua, up to now, is the chief tribalist. He said, if you are not part of the team that supported William Ruto for presidency, and that is on record, that you do not belong to this government, you are not eligible to any kind of share in that government, either in terms of resource allocation or jobs allocation. That came from Gachagua himself. Now, when the impeachment motion was brought before us, there were more than 19 allegations leveled against him, more than 19, all of which, to a larger extent, could stand on their own foot, could stand. And that is why we were convinced as a House to impeach him. If all these allegations were so cogent in a manner that it propelled and moved all of us to do what we did, a few people from his political divide, from his community, not political divide, but from his community, including my brother Newto here, said he is one of our own, he's not going anywhere. I mean, who is a tribalist now? The one who said, you know, in the interest of our nation, let bad people go and good ones remain. Or the ones who said, no, he's part of us, he's a Kikuyu like me, let him retain his seat because he's one of us. If he steals on our behalf anyway. So who is a tribalist here? So you cannot come here and say William Ruto and cohorts are more tribalist than the one that is publicly known. So I had to make that very clear. Parliament has the mandate of making budgets. Honorable Manzo is a lawyer. He knows better. The budget-making process, in line with our laws, moved from the executive to Parliament. So it is now the work of Parliament. Parliament has given itself more monies under different line budgets, but I want to talk about the 3 billion that has been captured there for public participation. No, 7 is now a conglomerate, but 3 billion is for public participation. In fact, out of that 7, 1 is also going to the judiciary. I don't know why it is lumped up.
No, judiciary has its own one.
Yeah, 1 billion.
1 billion
to the judiciary.
The deputy president 100 million.
We have lost many, many cases, and Manzo has actually represented Parliament in some of them. Just because
for free.
We have, for free, for pro bono, for free. just because of lack of adequate public participation. And the courts of law have made a pronouncement that public participation must be both qualitative and quantitative. So we make laws that end up in court, and we have so many people out there, you know, on the sidelines waiting to go to court. Kenya is a very litigious country. And Parliament has lost so many cases just because we do not have the resources and the wherewithal to move across the country to do both qualitative and quantitative public participation. Now, if a law collapses, and the laws are usually intended to address or to cure certain ills, that therefore means that ill will continue to fester. So what Parliament is doing now is to say, why can't we allocate additional monies to do you know, a substantive and significant public participation exercise, so that if that is what people will go to court with, we will win on that front. Okay. So it is not meant to, you know, give, and by the way, it is money that is going to the two houses. So it is not a National Assembly money and leaving out the Senate. Parliament is treated as one. So Honorable Kalonzo may, at the end of the day, start winning cases, start winning cases before our courts, because we are going to do both qualitative and quantitative.
But is it justified at a time when USAID has frozen the aid to Kenya and budget cut for health is happening at the same time? Which one is of more priority?
The priority, everything is a priority. Unless you're saying let's close Parliament and as we address issues of health,
we should reduce
I'm saying allocate more money to health.
Executive.
I'm not saying close Parliament. We're just saying allocate more money to health. It is the most practical thing to do.
I do not, because that is just a budget policy statement, which is usually a precursor to the main budget. So, and that is not the final thing, final document. It will have to be looked into. But what I was saying is, Parliament should not be gagged by conducting its affairs just because there is a shortage elsewhere. I mean, they should move in tandem. Okay. And I do not support this idea of having health funds reduced at a time when we need it so critically, in light of what you've just said, USAID, you know, cutting back its funding to us. Yeah. And I agree with my friend Manzo here that, you know, health is a devolved function. Why should we retain 80% of the budget in Nairobi and only take 20% of that budget to the periphery where it matters the most? Okay. So in our engagements, this need to be quickly addressed, that funds must follow functions, and the functions have been clearly spelled out in the Constitution. Yeah. No point retaining, and even if it has to be retained because policy comes from the top, let them retain 20%. Okay. Why 80% in Nairobi?
In Nairobi. Let me bring in Joe on this. And Joe, you know, the only places that have increased allocations are three: Parliament, Judiciary, and Office of the Deputy President. Is that practical?
No, it isn't. But because, allow me to just respond, because Jared has mentioned my boss in negative light. That is Rigathi Gachagua, and said that
is he your boss?
You know, yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Not the President William Ruto.
Yes, he is. No,
is President William Ruto also your boss?
No. You can have many bosses.
So
no, he's my boss. He's my party leader.
Okay.
Which party? But regarding, you know, the party that I'm elected in, if you do not know Jared,
that's Ruto.
I'd see me behind the tent. I'll tell you which party I'm elected on. If you didn't know, but. He has talked about the old argument about shares, and I think the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, the second Deputy President, explained about that a long time ago and said that what he meant was that when you are allocating you know, those major appointments, that you give them to people who believed in your manifesto, in order for you to be able to succeed in delivering the same. That is a manifesto. And that is something that Rigathi Gachagua explained a long time ago. I'm actually disappointed that Jared Okello, who is a very reasonable person and a very, astute debater, can bring an old argument like that. But he is very smart. You know, I raised an issue and I said, tell me which chair has been removed from the Rift Valley. Now he's bringing up, issues of shares and what Rigathi Gachagua said. He should have answered my question in a direct way and proved that it is not tribal when Joe Nyuto from Murang'a, Karungo Dangwa from Kiambu, John Medo from Nyandarua, Murango from Kirinyaga have been removed, while no one from the Rift Valley has been removed. And I mentioned the names, I do not want to repeat them. And when he says that it's not about the way people voted, he did not explain exactly why. When he says that we are tribalistic because we defended Gachagua, Trevor, we must correct this mentality that is being created by the government of William Ruto and his NIS, that any time Mount Kenya talks about a person from their area, that's tribalism. But when anybody else talks about a person from the area, that's not tribalism. Jared Okello, I refer you to the proceedings of the Senate yesterday, and just go there and check what Honorable Boni Halwale said about CS Mulongo. He said that if anybody touches Mulongo, then they will know that she also comes from a community. Go and check what Beatrice Alachi said when there were threats that Moses Wetangula would be removed as Speaker of the National Assembly. Said Muluya, no. But that is not tribalism. Tribalism only happens when Mount Kenya defend one of their own. Go check what the Kisii members of the Agusi community said when Margaret Nyakango was attacked. They said they would not allow anybody to attack Anomogusi in the name of Margaret Nyakango. We refuse as people from Mount Kenya to be intimidated, that we'll never talk about any person from our own area, but because that is tribalism, while others are allowed to talk about the people from their place. Let him tell us, apart from defending Rigathi Gachagua, where we have participated in removing anybody from any particular office because they did not come from our region. I told him about people, specific names that have been removed. We have never participated in removing anybody. So, but coming to your question, which is very important about, the budget and Parliament getting more, judiciary and which other?
And the office of the Deputy
President. And the office of the Deputy President.
But Parliament specifically, because that's 7 billion shillings.
I want to say categorically, I want to be very categorical that we as parliamentarians are paid our salaries. We do not, and we have not asked for any raise in our salaries or anything. Health should come first, Trevor, and you put it very well that in the face of the aid freeze by the US under Trump, that we should be allocating even more. And when I was headed here, actually I was following you, the news that you were presenting, and that meeting where yesterday, and I saw the new chair of health, Dr. Nyikal, talking about we need about 30-point-something billion, at least to retain the services where they have been. So I can never ever support any extra or marginal allocation to Parliament, especially or the judiciary or the office of the Deputy President, especially if we have not done sufficient or reasonable allocation and addition to the allocation to the health sector, and not just health sector, even education, Trevor. And especially, although budget allocates to ministries, the problems that we have, especially with the new funding model. So the major sectors that we should be looking into and, allocating even more is 1, health, and 2, education. So I do not support any additional allocation to Parliament.
I want us to shift topics here and talk about something else here. Especially it's a broad-based, state of the broad-based arrangement. And I'll bring in a conversation that was had by the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga when he was in Kiambu. This is what he had to say.
Mambo matibabu iko na shida. Hii mambo ya SHA haifanyi kazi. Mpaka irekebishwe, si ndio irekebishwe? Mambo ya ushuru ambayo wananchi wanatozwa ni juu sana. Hata hii nyumba hizi mpaka irekebishwe, sio? Hawezi kurekebisha kama unakaa kando. Mpaka uingie tale uambie fanya hii na hii na hii. Na weka watu yako hapa na hapa wafanye.
Manzo, is this going to hold? Because there's an allegation that there seems to be a walk back on the arrangement between ODM and UDA. Will this hold as a broad-based?
ODM has been very specific. That first of all, it is Ruto who looked for ODM. Actually, when he was totally unable to run the government. For him to dissolve government, it was an admission that he is unable to run government. He dissolved government. If he doesn't know, he had very many useless cabinet secretaries and the PSs, which he still retains up to today, and most of them actually are suspected criminals having looted public funds. So Raila Odinga was requested, as he said, by Ruto to assist, because there was every likelihood after Parliament was overrun that now, if Ruto signed the finance bill, he would have also been run at State House. And you know the consequence of that. It means then we have no nation and you probably run away from the people. And therefore, this is what Raila Odinga have come to hold. Remember, we only hold elections in 5 years. So if the president was to run away today with his deputy, then we will be left helpless. And therefore, Honorable Raila Odinga has become an agent of necessity, just to hold the nation to get to 2027 when we can conduct elections. And for that, he has made a sacrifice. After all, Honorable Raila Odinga won the election anyway. And that's why William Ruto was unable to run the government because it became very unpopular, and mainly because of corruption. So he insists certain things must be done, and he has insisted. You know, the abductions must stop. The killings of Gen Zs must stop. All those are things we stood for. The stealing of the nation, properties must stop. And he still stands for that, and I'm sure if they do something outrageous, Raila Odinga will quickly whip them in a big way. And he's, although, he's checking the government now when he's holding it. And I think that helps a little bit as the country settles. Otherwise, right now, today, we'll not be having a nation. Look at what happens with he has talked about the housing levies. We are paying a lot of money for houses. If William Ruto was serious with the housing thing, we should not be having slums in Mathare today. And this, now when he's walking around with this little freedom he has been given by Raila Odinga, when he walks around the same routes we went with Raila Odinga while doing demonstrations, you can see now the hired gangs are thieves. He should be, William Ruto should be free to walk to Mathare, to open up new houses, even without bodyguards, guarded by the people, and the people happy to receive him, and without being pickpocketed. Now his team has been pickpocketed because that's what the youths have been driven into. And we should not forget the youth component in this country. The youths don't know corruption. The youths don't know tribalism. There are more than 8 million in number. They should be given an equal opportunity. What do we do to them? The government comes up with the lies that we have jobs abroad. You are going to have drivers in Germany. In fact, that government becomes so unpopular, it was kicked out by the German people recently. Because for you to drive a lorry in Germany, you must learn the German language first. You must be fluent in German, and you must know what you are going to do there. It was one. Now our young people are finding themselves in Myanmar. Be detained there. You have been cheated here, you are going to work. You arrive there, you are told you have to work for 1.3 million shillings first for the agent. So you become a slave. Instead of helping the companies around, when you reduce the cost of living, you have investors. Our children and our youths want to work in Kenya. They want to be given an opportunity to start companies here, online companies, and work here. But what does taxation do? It forces them to go to Arabia, to go to Myanmar, to suffer there. And this is what Raila Odinga is saying. Get the country right, or get out.
And Jared, is the ODM leader developing cold feet?
Thank you. Last Friday, Baba, Right Honorable Raila Odinga and President William Ruto met at the KICC and signed a memorandum of understanding on critical areas that need attention. What Baba did not sign for is his silence. Baba has always had credentials on pursuit for purity in governance. And this is a quest that he has held ever since. when things go south in this country, or rather go north, no, south, it is only Baba whom Kenyans run to for answers. At certain times, he strategically keeps quiet. And Kenyans all over the place ask, where is Baba when things are going wrong in our country? So he hasn't lost those credentials. Baba still believes that if things are done right, then we can have a country worth talking about, a country that can be emulated by many. And unfortunately, we are surrounded by many countries in turmoil. And Kenya is playing host to several refugees who have fled their countries to come and live with us. So Baba understands how precarious countries can be in their situations. And therefore, if anything is going wrong, Baba would want to poke holes on it and seek for an amicable solution. So he was in Kiambu the other day. Yeah. And he said many things, some of which is that SHA is not working. It is true. I mean, you guys have run a very serious campaign on this SHA as to whether it works or not. Yes, it works for a few, and it doesn't work for many. And that is, public knowledge. Last week when we were here, we, comprehensively talked about SHA and areas where problems abound. And therefore, Baba is not going to be silenced just because he has signed some arrangement with the government of the day on how to address them. You only address when you acknowledge. And Baba has acknowledged that indeed things are not working right. And it is high time we moved swiftly as a country to have them addressed. And Baba is going to be at the center of having this done. Trevor, I want to tell you this, that there is a deep history between President William Ruto and Right Honorable Raila Odinga. When Baba joined KANU in the 90s to work together with the former President Moi, President Ruto was there. And when he moved out of KANU and later established post-referendum of 2005, ODM, President Ruto was a cog in the composition of ODM as a party. When former President Kibaki stole Raila's election, President Ruto played a pivotal role in the negotiation process that led to Baba being declared a prime minister. By the way, do you know without Ruto's fight for Raila, he would be former Langata member of parliament. And his title will end there. But Ruto spared no resources, spared no time to make sure that Baba became prime minister. And then they joined with President Kibaki. And that is the only time that Kenyans are saying things were done. After that, it has been charade. So I also acknowledge that I come from a community that quickly forgives but never forgets. So we are not going to forget the good that President William Ruto did to us by making Baba become prime minister and having a country move forward during that period. Yeah. Most of the good things we talk about stem from that coalition, Grand Coalition government, up to now. So Baba is not going to abandon Ruto just because he has attended a funeral in Kiambu and castigated the government. He is still going to poke holes in this administration, but also helping. You don't just criticize. Yeah. You criticize objectively and also offering.
So, but does that mean that you will work together in 2027? Because this has been the biggest question. Is this for now or is it for posterity in 2027? Because you just said that you'll quick to forgive, but you don't forget.
Right. I would be remiss not to say that 2027 is way too far. The dynamics will also play out, and many of them. But the most important thing that Baba and President Ruto are doing now, which need to be supported, by everybody, is the inclusion, the quest for inclusion, so that we don't sideline people we don't segregate them along shareholding and non-shareholders. They would want this country to move together as one unitary society. If that is the only thing that they are going to achieve at the end of the day, so be it.
Okay.
But, you know, trying to muddle this river by inviting 2027 and asking where will Baba be and where will President Ruto be, then I think that is belittling their bigger vision of uniting this country to achieve the common objectives.
Okay.
So 2027 will come, and actually it will go, and we will still be here. But personally, I would say this, that if they can be so united in 2027 and beyond, I would be a very happy person.
Okay. Joe, do you see this as a quest for inclusion? Is the Ruto-Raila pact a quest for inclusion or a strategy for 2020?
In fact, I wanted to laugh at Jared. Because Jared is not, he's not a sycophant. But that is what he's becoming now from his presentation here. I mean, Trevor, Jared Yawa. You say this is inclusion.
Yeah, it is.
This is not inclusion, actually, it's exclusion. Because if it were, in that pact, the two should have come with their teams, as they were in 2022. Raila Amolo Odinga would have come to this negotiation table where they signed with Kalonzo Musyoka, with Martha Karua. These are the people that were his major supporters and who brought him a lot of votes. William Ruto should have come with Rigathi Gachagua, with Ndindi Nyoro, with Mithika Linturi, the people, these are the people, with Justin Muturi, you know, these are the people they would have come with. But that's why I'm telling Jared Yawa. I mean, these two, Wetangula, Mudavadi, these two have excluded their people. Kenya is much, much bigger than William Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga. It is true that they were top contenders in the two formations that were there in 2022, but both of them ignored and left out their major supporters. So this is not exclusion. Please, Jared, call it anything else, a pact, all those other names, but inclusion, please. Never use that word because there is no inclusion here. But just allow me also to address the question that my colleagues have addressed of whether Baba has developed cold feet. And I tell you a big yes. You know, Baba is a very smart politician. And I told you, and I challenge anybody to ever tell me anywhere that I insulted Baba or I talked ill of Baba. I have a lot of respect because most of the freedoms that we enjoy today here were fought by Baba, But you see, Baba is also learning because learning is a process. I have seen Baba learn from Rigathi Gachagua lately. Listening to the ground, which is what Baba did in Kisii. When he was, people walked out on him in Kisii from Gusii Stadium, and Baba listened.
And told him Ruto must
go. Baba listened to the ground. He has been learning from Rigathi Gachagua. That is why Baba did not join Ruto on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in his rallies in Nairobi. Remember, Ruto has no support in Nairobi, by the way. The person who has the biggest support traditionally in Nairobi is Baba. So you cannot go to Nairobi to say that you are now, consolidating people without Baba, whom you signed a pact with on Friday, and whose major support ground is the one you're going to. So Baba listened to the ground after Kisii, and Baba decided to backtrack. That is why he's not joining Ruto. That is in the rallies. That is why Baba said, put things straight. Before that, he couldn't have said that it is Ruto who came for him. So Baba had to put the record straight. People, please don't be hostile to me. I'm still with you. He said that. Mimi sijabadilika tangu kuzaliwa. I will continue fighting for your rights. Because Baba, Baba has made many handshakes. But this one he has made with the wrong number. and Baba has realized this is the wrong number, and Baba will not support Ruto going forward, because he has seen that he could also lose even his credentials that he has that are hard earned. And you know, I want to tell Jared, because and of course to remind him, because he knows that, you know, Raila has achieved very many things. But if we look at the history of Raila, he has never been able to change anything when he gets into government. All the changes that he has been able to bring to Kenya have been changes that he has fought for outside government. Anytime Baba has joined government, of course, I don't know what happens to him, but he has not achieved much for the people while in government. And that's a fact, because, I mean, history is there, and you can see. The only thing he did was breaking KANU in going to 2002 elections. Yeah. But he has never been able to achieve any change, you know, democratic change when he's in government. But when he has been out there, he has been able to change very many things. And I agree with Jared that Ruto actually fought for Baba in 2007. But the way Ruto fought for Baba in 2007, if we started talking about it here, it would open a very big can of worms. How did he fight for Raila in 2007? Because then we will be looking at the post-election violence of 2007. And so he cannot just, you know, praise Ruto here, he fought for Baba. It is true, he fought for him. But how did he fight for him? And if Jared thinks that Raila has been a very good supporter of Baba and has done very good things for Baba, why didn't he vote for him? Because I'm sure Jared never voted for Ruto. So even as we reason here, as we do our submissions, we must not, you know, sugarcoat even things that are very bitter if we were able to remove the cover, the wrapping. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, but. Finally, let me say Sifuna has also stayed out of those Nairobi rallies. Babu Owino has stayed out of those rallies. James Orengo, I know Jared will want to say Orengo is busy in Siaya. Anyang' Nyong'o, I know you will want to say that he's busy in Kisumu. It's because they do not support this. Only these new MPs like us, elected once or twice, are excited. You will not see any excitement in Orengo, any excitement in Anyang' Nyong'o. Sifuna, the Secretary General of the party, is not excited. And just check, Raila will not follow Baba. But inclusion, if Jared has to support this pact,
Raila will not follow Ruto.
Raila will not follow Ruto. But to talk about inclusion, oh please. Okay. Ruto, who has broken his house, and now he's talking about inclusion. You chase away your wife, your children, and then you are there pontificating and saying, you know, we should come together. We must end tribalism. It means he was practicing tribalism until Friday. We must now sort out the issues of Kenyans. Thank you.
Which has been there were calls from Mentoret that Kalonzo should join Ruto. And even yesterday, the government paid bloggers to say that Kalonzo has gone to State House. I want to say that the picture circulating was one of Nadiko report, and Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka will not join Ruto at anyone's point. And the Kenyans better get used to that. We want to remain the people's loyal opposition. Yeah. The people of Kenya have declared now that they are the opposition.
But will you join Gachagua?
We are working with Gachagua. Okay. Because Gachagua believes in an ideal country, a fair country, and he is organizing himself to have a political party. Honorable Rigathi Gachagua is not an empty shell politically. He is a follower of many people. He was the deputy president, and he was the reason in the first place Ruto ever became president.
And that was not the position of Wiper just before he was ousted. In fact, Wiper itself was quoted as labeling the former deputy president as a tribalist.
Wiper was working with Azimio, and we, at all material times, stand for what is fair and just. The Honorable Gachagua clarified himself what he stood for, and that he stood for truth, and he spoke the truth as it was. It means they had made a government of shares. And even the shares are in the agreements he showed. And therefore, he said he was in a government which he realized was not serving the people. And the moment he opposed it from inside, they impeached him. Okay. And he's fighting out the impeachment process in courts. So we are not going to join. And finally, you know, we want the national government to work, especially in Nairobi. Somewhere around Timor, every time it rains, Those roads belong to national government. It flows, cars can't move. People who prefer low cars, they are filled with water. Then they blame it on Sakaja. We want to say that this is the work for the Ministry of Roads. Please unblock your roads so that when it rains, we are not being washed away. I saw that even in social media with the chapatis. We want roads which are working. We don't cars to be washed away and people to be swimming in roads when the rains come. Let Ruto who are sitting in the roads department with impunity so that the blockages are cleared before the rains come.
Is there a chance of Wiper working with ODM again?
Well, we stand for what works for the country. We stand for the fight of corruption. We stand that human rights must be respected. There should be no abductions. And even when that issue of abductions was raised to Raila Odinga when he was doing the African tour, he said he doesn't support it and he has told William Ruto to stop it. We will only work with ODM or part of them, because a lot of ODM people have left ODM. Those who have the same ideals as we had, a lot of them have left and have given indications they are going to be defecting to Wiper. We are going to work with like-minded people. And more than half of ODM are going to come with us if Raila says Ruto tosha.
So this political alliance is then about the people or selfish political interests?
For me, I must say, where this country has gotten to, people better listen to the ground. The youth of this country who have now taken over, and that's the truth. They want a fair country. They want a country without corruption. They want a country where they have an opportunity. Unfortunately, the current government has denied the youth opportunity and gone on to kill them. Even the ones from Nakuru just try to do fishing. Then you end up killing somebody just for fishing. It's not fair. And then when you go to court, you are able to untwist the justice system. And the courts say there is no evidence that that child is with the KWS. I think that's not really fair. All Kenyans want a fair country, equal for all of us. And definitely that one cannot be given by William Samoei Ruto, who has killed people in this country, who has killed youth, who has seen them be abducted and failed to protect them. Because the other way is if you protect them and you stop the killings and make sure people who kill children are being prosecuted, then you will be a darling of the people. Okay. Unfortunately, many things have not worked in President Ruto's regime. Yeah. We will not join him. And if Honorable Raila Odinga joins him, and he knows he will be on his own together with Ruto. The rest of the Kenyans will be elsewhere.
So is the Ruto-Raila pact a winning ticket?
The pact they made means nothing. What William Ruto has done is to dig his own political grave, lie there, and tell Raila Odinga to cover him up.
Kelo, you know, there's something they're all saying that it's only the new legislators who are excited about this pact.
Yeah. Well, firstly, in politics, you never say never. Anything can happen. People have reached across the aisle greeting people that hitherto was a mirage. But today you can see people working together. Trevor, after impeachment of Gachagua, a few days later, there was some rapprochement between Gachagua, Martha Karua, Eugene Wamalwa, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Jeremiah Kioni, representing Jubilee. When they met, and since then they have had plethora of meetings at Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka's center, many meetings. No one has ever invited us as ODM. And therefore, to say that Azimio could have joined Wamunyoro as an outfit when we do not have any invitation. In fact, we only see it on TV, that they are meeting at the Wiper Center. And the new entrant from Wamunyoro, the former deputy president, now seems to be running the show. That we are perplexed, because if you don't go anywhere where you are not invited, and as a big political party, you know, East and Central Africa, ODM, you know, whether they fear that a big river cannot join a small one because it will be flooding like Nando, I don't know. But they've never invited us. So if ODM as a party now signs a working formula with President William Ruto, don't ask us why we never called them, because they've never called us to begin with. Secondly, it was ODM, not Azimio, signing a pact with President William Ruto. So it was an ODM affair.
ODM UDA.
Yes, ODM UDA affair, not a conglomerate of these political parties within that outfit. And therefore, for Kalonzo and company not to have joined is correct, because they never invited us. We also never invited them to come to KICC. When they signed, there was a pact that was signed between UDA and ANC that actually led to dissolution of ANC.
Yeah.
They never challenged Wetangula of Ford Kenya, why he never attended. So why should it just be about us, that we should have gone to sign with William Ruto as an outfit? No, this is ODM and it will remain ODM. Whether the newcomers are excited or not excited, whether Siaya Governor Orengo is stuck in Siaya working for the people and Nyong'o equally in Kisumu, is neither here nor there. Baba has reached out to President William Ruto. They have publicly signed a document. For those who will have time, they will always accompany President William Ruto in his development tours. What Ruto is doing in Nairobi is not campaign, because I know what campaign is all about. I've campaigned twice and I've won twice. He is, as president, monitoring, launching and commissioning development agenda. Yesterday he was in Dagoretti South and Dagoretti North, launching a market and launching a health facility. So he's working in Nairobi, and that is the mandate of the president. You can't stop him from doing that.
So this is not campaigns according to
you are preparing people to accept the new finance bill.
People will campaign.
He's just preparing youths to come and accept the new finance bill.
Okay.
It will depend on whether the new finance bill will be in favor of the people or not.
Okay.
So basically, the president has the latitude to visit anywhere, anytime, and not just him. Any Kenyan can go anywhere at any time that you want. So you cannot fault the president for doing development tours. Otherwise, it will also be said that he has sidelined certain regions. So he has not been in Nairobi. He's now visiting Nairobi. He was in Western Kenya. He was at the coast. He's the president of this country. So he has to go everywhere to make sure that things work.
Okay.
Development agenda is top-notch. Health facilities are erected here and there. There's provision of adequate water. There's agriculture. There's availability of food and food security. That is the mandate of the president.
Okay. Joe, is this...
And by the way, if I have time, I will be joining him in Nairobi. I'm not excited because he's just doing development tours.
I'm sure
so you can't.
I'm sure your phone.
It's my time.
So Joe,
it's my time.
Development tours or early campaigns, and these are interesting times.
Yes, very interesting times. We have no problem.
Yeah.
Those of us on this side of the political divide, we have no problem, and I think I've said it very many times, we have no problem with Raila Amolo Odinga signing a pact with William Ruto. Because for us, especially from the mountain, we did not vote for Raila. Raila owes us nothing. Our major focus is President William Ruto, whom we voted for, and who has targeted us, a purge, and has betrayed us. So I want to tell Jared, I did not question why ODM signed a pact with Ruto. I said that we should talk about ODM and Ruto. Actually, not even UDA. ODM and Ruto, because we are part of UDA and we were not involved. What I took issue with, if you remember, was when Jared said that it is it's inclusive. It is including every Kenyan. So I said if it was inclusive of every Kenyan, then everybody should have brought their brigades with them. So we have no problem with ODM signing with them. And we have, by the way, you will not hear any member of our team attacking Raila Amolo Odinga for signing the pact. He's doing his politics. He has the freedom to do his politics. But we will have very many problems with William Ruto. who is targeting us. We would have wanted, if he's a well-meaning politician and leader, we would have wanted at least, because these chairs that were removed from us, sorry, I'm not taking you back, we would have expected him, if he is that inclusive and fatherly, to have at least dished out to ODM, maybe 3 chairs from Mount Kenya region, maybe 2 from Rift Valley. So we have a lot of problems with him, but not the Raila Amolo Odinga. But let me tell you, Trevor, that whatever we do, we can keep going round. But this pact was signed to serve one man, William Samoei Ruto, and his survival. And I take you back. That is why Raila Amolo Odinga is saying Ruto went for him. He is not the one who went to Ruto, because Raila had no problem, but Ruto had very many problems. So he went there to survive. I want to tell you, and for the record, because I know you record these things, ask me, the blood of the young men and women of this country that were killed, the Gen Zs, their blood cry out every day to God. And I can tell you, Trevor, without any fear of contradiction, and I know you'll call me here one day and tell me and call me a prophet. I tell you, those that are responsible, and you know whom they are, and they acted at the behest of who, will never know peace. And I'm telling you, the price of that, the blood that was spilled, of young children who went to the streets with only some water, a glass of water, a phone, and a handkerchief at most. Then they were later killed. Some of them flashed out of their homes from the images that were captured in Parliament. This blood, just like that of Abel, that has continued haunting Cain up to today. I'm told Cain roams all over the world. That blood, Trevor, you will call me a prophet. Big people are going to fall because of that blood. That is why they'll do things that are supposed to excite people. Giving money in church is supposed to excite people. It's supposed to make people very happy. But then it turns around against you because you have the blood of Gen Zs in your hands. And that is why even Raila Amolo Odinga himself has problems. The blood is crying. The blood God will avenge for this blood. You can do anything. You can even spill more blood. Some of us could be even could also be at risk. But the blood, the blood, it is crying. And soon and very soon, the consequences will be there.
Is President William Ruto welcome to Mount Kenya?
Yes, he can come to Mount Kenya. Nobody is blocking him from coming to Mount Kenya.
Will you join?
But I think, yes, if he comes to Murang'a, I will join him, but to tell him the truth. I will not go to a particular rally in Murang'a and go praising him, you know, Shah is working, you are the greatest president that ever lived, you know, you have united the country. I will tell him the truth if he comes to Murang'a. We cannot prevent the president from coming to Murang'a. Murang'a is to Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya is in Kenya. He is free to come. In fact, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua invited him, told him to come and come very soon. But of course, come ready with answers for very many questions that the people from that region particularly, they're asking what we did to him to warrant a purge against us, what we did to him to warrant, insults. Yeah. What we did to him to be called stupid all the time. What we did to him to be targeted as a community. The way the Jews were targeted by Hitler, targeting us as a community, having made him president. We will want to know what we did to him. And I can tell you, if we wronged him and he convinces us that we wronged him, we will tell him sorry. But he should come ready with answers for the very many questions the people of Mount Kenya are asking of him. Because we cannot give you power, then you use that power to punish us for nothing other than our ethnicity.
Okay.
So those are the things.
I'd like to hear all your views on a quick topic here before we wind up.